All right, let's move along to hour two, and let's move on to the next position group. We got a pretty good grab on that. I just want to point out Brenton Cox Jr., Kingsley and Igbare, they're doing a great job providing depth. You don't see Aaron Mosby on here either. For whatever reason, Spot Track has him listed as a linebacker, I believe. So we'll see his number. Matter of fact, let's just look at his number real quick. Yeah, $915,000 for Mosby, and he's an exclusive rights free agent. So if the Packers want him back, they'll have him back as well. Seems like the depth is in place for the edge position group. Anyway,
yeah, so. I'm with Coach Len in the chat too. I still think we have something in Mosby and Brenton Cox. I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. I see those two players. I see the future. I really do.
Definitely. All right, let's move along to linebacker. This has been a big talking point this year. Obviously, Quay Walker, $3.7 million against the cap this year. He's under contract next year for only $4.4 million. As the green dot, Mike, I don't think that's a bad number. I just wish he played better. Now, unfortunately, he gets hurt right as he's kind of peaking this year. Who knows? That could have been him turning the corner. Now we'll probably see a little bit of a setback with the injury. So we'll see how that continues to play out. But Edgerrin Cooper, $1.5 million this year, $1.9 million next year. Here's where it gets interesting. Both Eric Wilson and Isaiah McDuffie are going to be unrestricted free agents this offseason. So they're going to get to test the market. The question is, what's the market going to look like for them? I think Isaiah McDuffie will probably get some pretty decent offers. So there's probably a decent chance that he leaves. Eric Wilson, seeing that he's 30 years old, I don't think his market's going to be very hot. I could see him returning back to the Packers.
I don't know. Don't forget about Goody DiCaprio. You know, we got Eric Wilson's going to be on the wrong side of 30 here. Just saying.
We do know Tyron Hopper will be on the roster, right? $1 million flat. He's $1.2 million next year against the cap. Aaron Mosby, again, we treat him as a defensive end. Just forget that. He should not be listed as an outside linebacker in this 4-3. And then Michael Barrett they picked up. Michael Barrett was on our draft board, Tim. I think we talked about this when we picked him up and put him on the practice squad, trying to see where we had him. We had him kind of the middle of the pack. Yeah. He was definitely a top 200 prospect. He might have been closer to 150. It looks like he was worthy of the 158th pick. So the fact that you got him sitting on your practice squad, and we'll see if he continues to improve. The point is, him being on the practice squad, that should reset to a futures contract. If no one goes after him, then Michael Barrett will be back next year as well. So your linebacker room, if everybody walks in free agency, is going to look like Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper, and Michael Barrett as it sits right now. Now, obviously, 4-3, will Tyron Hopper step into that third linebacker position? Even if he does, you're going to need to go get at least one, maybe two linebackers, probably two if they don't see Michael Barrett as ready to, play significant game time.
That may be the argument for keeping Eric Wilson around for a year or two. Like if McDuffie's going to test the market and maybe get a contract, Eric Wilson might have a little lighter interest in free agency. Maybe you get him locked up, do a 1, 2, or 3 year kind of deal and just say, hey, you're going to retire in Green Bay. We'll get you set up with some incentive-based kind of contract, some guaranteed money, and you're going to be that veteran presence in that young, linebacker room. That may be a play, and you never know.
Yeah, I completely agree. If it were me, the way I would approach this is I would let Eric Wilson and Isaiah McDuffie test the market, and then if neither of them get a hit, then, hey, let's bring them back. I'm cool with that. Because now what you've got is the same returning linebacker room, and you've got room for one guy if for some reason a stud drops to you in the draft, right? Yeah. That could potentially happen. But if they go and hit the market and somebody offers Isaiah McDuffie $4 million per, I'm probably capped out at the $2.5 million mark, something like that. Eric Wilson, same thing. I would put a little more value on Eric Wilson than I would McDuffie. That's just me personally.
Yeah, the only thing, like I said, is age. Age is the only thing negative for Eric Wilson. But, if you look at the way he plays, he's always available. And he doesn't play like your typical 30-year-old. He's still got some youth in them legs. So I don't know. It's going to be tough.
Yep, Coach Lynn says, I'm good with that. Maybe keep Wilson for sure. He said, I love McDuffie, but we will move forward on him. I think, like I said, I think he's put enough on tape that someone will probably offer him a little more than we're willing to give. We'll see, though. So there's your linebacking room and how it sits. Of course, with Quay, you got the choice of the 5th-year option coming up this offseason. That's going to be really interesting to see if they pick that up. I know I think we got a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts on that one with CJN, right?
That's great. We have to double check.
Put that ticker up there. That way when it rolls through, we'll know for sure. So the bet is, I said they'll probably 5th-year option at least one of those guys, possibly both. And I think CJN's bet was, and I want to make sure, let's confirm here, that they will not put a 5th-year option on either of them. Is that right, Tim?
Yeah, I typed this up pretty quick on there, so hopefully I got everything.
And I everything. Too. I adjusted it because you did. We were trying to do it on the fly. Let's see. CJN's in here, I believe. Let's just make sure we got this right. Again, these bets matter, guys. It's important. Jacob might be getting a tattoo on his left butt cheek, so we got to keep up with this stuff. All right. Let's see here. Tucker Kraft drinks the Gatorade of working men. That was Emilio's.
Oh, Emilio, you're the man.
Yeah. This is my favorite. When we were talking about going to Brazil, Tim said, I'll play the Eagles on the damn moon.
All right, here's the bet. Chris N versus Clayton for a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. Chris says Goody will not give 5th-year options for both Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt. That's the bet.
Yeah. So all it takes is one 5th-year option.
One, and you got a dozen Krispy Kremes, man.
That's what I'm trying to get rid of this double chin, and it just keeps coming back. Stuff like this. Seth Ruder with the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, can you explain the difference between the 3-tech and other traders? So when we talk 3-tech, I think that's what he's asking, Tim. Is that the way you understand it too there? You can confirm in the chat. Seth, you just want to know what we mean by 3-tech?
We have that chart. We don't still have our
no, we don't have it. It's okay, though. We can describe it here. So actually, you know what we could do? Might make it easy. Let me go to the telestrator and explain that way. I think we should have enough screen grabs.
Pull up a box cam shot or something.
I think we might have a box cam. Let's see here if we got it. Let me go.
Look at this, professional.
You drop this down. I don't know about that. Now let's don't go lying to these good folks. Let's see here. All right, let's see if we got it up here. All right, so you guys can see this, right? All right, so the 3-tech, when we talk about a 3-tech, when we talk about any tech, it's basically talking about how the defensive line is lining up. This is what you call a 34 jam. And with a jam is you've got a guy lined up in the 0. Let me go red here so y'all can see it. A 0-tech, and then typically both guards are covered at some point, and you got 2 wide 9s. Okay, you got a 5-man front, one's in a 0-tech, and you got 2 wide 9s. That's not the question. A 3-tech, let's talk about what the techs mean here, okay? So if you're lined up over a player, okay, that's a 0 if you're over the center directly. Voice texting. Okay,
yeah, he was voice texting. That's what he meant. So the difference between text.
Don't be texting and driving. I love it. Okay, so over the center is a 0. Okay, that's what you call a 0-tech right there. Okay, 0. If you're lined up directly over the guard, right, that's what you would call over top of that. Think of it this way. Even numbers are directly over the player. So 0 over the center, 2 over the guards, okay? And then over the tackles would be a 4, okay? So it's 0, 2, 4 is how that lines up, all right? That's what we mean by tech. Now, we'll go blue for the numbers in between. If you're lined up in this gap, okay, each gap is going to be an odd number. So that gap is a 1-tech, okay? And then, I'm sorry, in here is a 1-tech. We've already screwed it up. In the interior would be a 1-tech, right? This one here would be the 3-tech.
3-tech, yeah.
Okay. So in between the guards and the tackle are your 3-tech. Now, let's clear that off. So what we're talking about is in between the guard and the tackle, what defender is going to line up in between the guard and the tackle? Because typically you don't have a 34 jam front, right? You've got a 4-man front. So imagine this guy X'd out of the equation, and we'll go in red. Typically the way you line up is you're either in an under or an over. If you're in an over front, you're going to be shaded to the strong side. Okay, so again, pretend like this guy doesn't exist, and let's say you've got a guy lined up in the 1-tech here, right? And then a guy lined up in the 3. This guy's close to being a 3. So the 1-tech is more like a nose tackle. Think of your traditional like TJ Slayton type player, right? A little more junk in the trunk, if you will. All right. They're going to play 1-tech typically. Kenny has played a lot of 1-tech this year. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that Kenny hasn't played 3 because he has. So that 3-tech, the whole purpose of that, Seth, and the reason it's so important is you have a 3 tech, right, that's going to occupy double team blocks because they're so dominant. You're looking to occupy this tackle's got to fan out and cover this wide 9 right here, right? So what will typically happen is when you've got a good 3 tech is you're forcing them to play one-on-one or shade the tackle or the center over to help. So you're kind of bending the offensive line protection to occupy that as well. Now, if you've got a dominant edge defender on the opposite side, what you've got to do now as an offensive line is you've got to say, we've got to pick one of those 2 guys to double team, or we have to keep in a 6-man protection. In this case, it means you're eliminating one guy from going out in the route. He's going to have to help chip. And that's why Rashawn Gary's been one of the most chipped guys in the league this year, right? So if you go get a true 3 tech, you're going to occupy. This guy's got to fan out and block this defensive end. These 2 are going to have to work over and double team, or what's going to happen is these guys are going to fan over and double team, and this center has to take the 1 tech, and now you're one-on-one with the 3 tech. So essentially, when you've got a solid 3 tech and a solid edge defender, you've got to choose between one of those 2. Which one are we going to double in a 5-man protection? Okay, yep. That's what makes it so difficult. Now, back to the what was it? Micah Parsons talk, right? If you go get Micah Parsons, forget paying a 3 tech. What you're saying is we're going to pay 2 edge defenders top money. Now, when you do that you got the same thing applies, right? They've got to pick and choose who is it that they're going to choose to double team and the edge. And you may have to do a double chip, right? You may have to do a double chip and then a leak out here, double chip, leak out here, right? Yep. You could do it. The problem, though, is you're allocating all your resources to just edge, and now you've got this huge hole in the middle where you don't have a true 3 tech to help you in the interior with run defense. So again, Kenny, it's not that Kenny's had a bad year. To me, Kenny has been getting double teamed a lot, just like Gary has, but that's opened things up for other guys like TJ Slayton to make tackles there in the run stop, if that makes sense. So hopefully that explains it. That's not the best image to use. A 4-man front would be the best thing.
Sure.
And again, I don't have any box cam, but like here's a good example, right? Like right here, there's your 3 tech, there's your 1 tech, right? So again, if you've got a dominant edge out here and a dominant 3 tech, that causes a 5-man protection, a ton of trouble, just an absolute headache on Sundays. So hopefully that explains it. Again, though, the tech's real simple. The best way to look at it, even numbers are directly over players. Okay, even numbers are directly over players. The odd numbers are the gaps in between. And if you want to start splitting hairs, and coaching staffs do this, then you can start looking at 2I. Like this right here, technically, we've been labeling this right here as a 3 tech this whole video. He's not technically a 3 tech. He's not in the gap. What we call a 4I. If he was directly over the tackle, it would be a 4. But see how he's playing the inside half? That's what you call a 4I, a 4 inside. And there are no 4 O's. It basically goes like when you're playing in this
different tech,
when you're playing on the inside shoulder or the outside shoulder of the center, they call that shade. When you're playing on the inside shoulder of the guards, that's called 2I. Inside shoulder of the tackles is called 4I. All right. And you could keep it going. You could go 6 here, 6I. But typically, once you get outside of the outside shoulder of the tackle, everybody just refers to these guys as wide 9s, whether they're truly a wide 9 or not. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. That was a lot. This is why we don't talk X's and O's much, because I will go on a tangent and say, oh, yeah, but this, oh, that too, because all is important, right? And Seth, hopefully that answered your question about the techniques there, buddy. That's truly how defensive coaches look at it. So Mike Witt with the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, surprise Hopper hasn't gotten more playing time this year with Quay hurt and Cooper missing time earlier. 34-17 Packers tonight. Book it. Put it on the ticker.
I like it.
I do too, man. As far as Hopper, I think it says a lot, right? Like, Mike, we talk all the time about, you want me to show you where, or you want to know where someone's priorities lie, you look at their checkbook and you look at their calendar, right? That'll tell you the most important thing in people's lives is what are they spending their time on and what are they spending their money on? Well, with the Packers, it's kind of the same thing. How much is Hopper getting paid? Not a whole lot. He's a young draft pick. Got it. How much playing time is he getting? Even with injuries this year, both Cooper and Quay. I want to say Eric Wilson or McDuffie was banged up 1 week too.
Yeah.
The fact he hasn't gotten on the field, to me, says he's probably not ready yet. But sooner or later, Tim, you got to take the training wheels off. He's going to be thrust in, and tonight might be that.
We can say the same thing in the secondary about Kalen King. We've had injuries in that secondary. We have not seen Kalen King on the field. So, yeah, it says more about the development of these rookie players, I think, than anything. And, sometimes having the physical attributes is great, but if you can't process the game or you're not understanding, the concepts or assignments out there, or you're not processing that information fast enough, then they're not going to throw you out on an NFL field and get you killed. So I think it's just a work in progress for Hopper. One of the between Edgerrin Cooper and Evan Williams, I think I was probably the most excited for Oladapo and Hopper. So talk about guys that we haven't seen much. We haven't seen much Oladapo here, a little bit here and there peppered in, right? Special teams. Same thing with Hopper. We've gotten some glimpses. Hopefully, with more time, we just start to see more reps and, see the development of these guys. But it's a testament to our coaching staff to, not feel that pressure to just throw a rookie out there because you feel like you have to.
Right.
You've got to use your depth to your advantage. And there's a reason why we've got guys like McDuffie and Wilson on this team to kind of fill those roles when needed. So I think it says more about Hopper's development than anything, honestly, why we're not seeing him.
Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Hopper hurt in camp too? Seemed like he did get banged up in camp because people were talking about him popping folks in practice, like, hey, this guy's a thumper. And then I want to say he battled an injury in camp. I could be wrong,
because I know Coop was hurt during the preseason and most of camp. But I think you might have been right. I think that could have kind of stunted his growth a little bit there if he missed some time early on.
Yeah. Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, if they bring back Quay, I think his best position is outside linebacker with Coop in the middle. Jacobs going for 150 and 2 tuds tonight. Number 52, 2 sacks, 2. Let's go, man. Let's go. We will continue the white jersey tradition tonight, Tim. We got to keep that going, as we both did not coordinate it. Showed up with 2 white jerseys on last week, and everything went good. So let's just keep that going. We'll be sporting the Gary jersey tonight. So now, as far as if they bring back Quay, let him play outside linebacker. The way I look at that, Mike, we're in nickel the majority of the time, somewhere between 65 and 75% of the snaps. So there's only going to be 2 linebackers out there. And when you're talking Mike and Will in the nickel 4-2-5, they are very, very interchangeable. So if you're strictly talking about 4-3, the base, I don't disagree with you. However, the Mike will typically in a 4-3 base will be the one to protect the seam. Although if you're in a base, most of the time they're running the football. That Mike defender has got to be a gap destroyer, right? And I personally don't see Quay as that. I see him as a guy who can cover vertically, though. So it's like he's got half the package for being a solid Mike in a base 4-3, but not having that ability to run stop. Like, we were looking at the numbers. Let's just go ahead since we got the linebackers up here, Tim. I'm going to pull this up on the screen real quick and talk about this. Made sense to me when we looked at the linebacking core. This is kind of how it's felt. When you go to run stops with the linebackers, Isaiah McDuffie leads the team with 41 run stops. Okay. Now, I want to point this out too. Let me get it zoomed in here just a touch. Here we go. So he leads the team at the linebacking room with 41 run stops, and he's only played 68.9% of the snaps. Okay. Quay has played 88.9% of the snaps, and he only has 40 run stops. Edgerrin Cooper has only played 46.3% of the snaps, and he's at 28 run stops. So essentially, if you doubled Edgerrin Cooper's snap count, he still would fall far short of Quay's snap count, and he would have 56 run stops if the numbers continued to trickle the way they did, right? So, again, Quay Walker, great at vertical coverage. Down the seam, there's probably nobody better in the league at the Mike backer that isn't named Fred Warner at doing that. He is solid at that. But underneath stuff, man, he's just so hesitant. So when it comes to the run stops, that would suggest, though, Isaiah McDuffie, that's what I'm talking about. Teams are going to look at that and look at the tape and go, this guy plays the run really well. Let's offer him a little bit of money. And he's 26 years. He's going to be 26, right? You talked about that. So
it's very realistic that McDuffie's gone and Wilson might play another year or two for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So, again, when you look at the tackles, Quay's got 102 tackles. You go, man, he's a tackle machine. He is, but the run stop number being down, it just lines up with what we have talked about, how that's where he struggled in his game. Now, when you go to passer rating when targeted at the linebacker position, right? Forget Tyron Hopper. He's only, I don't know how many snaps, 9 snaps. You got to throw that 0 rating out. But look at Edgerrin Cooper, Tim. He has played how many snaps now? 309 snaps. His passer rating when targeted is a 37.1, bro. This dude is a monster. So he would be, as far as his run stop percentage, he leads the linebacking room in run stop percentage, and he also leads the linebacker room in coverage. Now, Quay Walker is second behind him at 100.9, Eric Wilson at 104.6, Isaiah McDuffie 125.4. So if you were to take Isaiah McDuffie's run stop ability with Quay Walker covering the seam, you've got a much better linebacker there. But again, 2 half of players don't make a great player when they can't be on the field together most of the time, right?
So true.
What this little exercise should show people, though, man, is Edgerrin Cooper is the real freaking deal, dude. Like,
yeah, you pick that up right away when you see this guy. You talk about a player flashing in his rookie year. Yeah. I mean, the guy looks like a grown man playing with little children out there on that field. I mean, it's crazy. The game does not look too big for him. It almost looks like easy, and he has great. I think he has great FBI for a rookie for sure. He's definitely grasping NFL speed and these concepts very quickly. So he's just exciting to watch. And again, another guy, like, there is no ceiling. Like Edgerrin Cooper. Like, we're just going to continue to see explosive growth from him, and it's awesome to have him back there. Like I said, still waiting. Fingers crossed, we're going to get that full game of him and Quay on the field together. I want to see it at least once here.
Yeah, definitely. Ron Samuel, and again, Mike Witt, thank you for the second super chat there, buddy. We really appreciate you. Ron Samuel says, 5th-year option can be spread out over a few years, or am I mistaken? That is correct. I did not know that until last year. They did that with Savage. So with Savage, they tacked on the 5th-year option. They added 2 or 3 voidable years, spread it out over the duration of those voidable years. It reduced the cap hit for that current year. But keep in mind, the second that player is cut loose and not on the team, all that money that you spread out over the voidable years accelerates to the current year. So all it does is it buys you cap space and time for that current year. But if you decide not to bring them back on an extension, then that voidable year, you may have spread it out through 27 and 28. It accelerates to 25 because he's no longer on the roster. In this case, if we did that with Quay, it would be 26 would be the year that happens. So yes, you can free up that fully guaranteed contract, but when you're talking about what we say, Tim, it was $13 million for Quay and $10 million for Devontae Wyatt. Does that sound right? I think that was
something
the number.
Like that.
Yeah, for the 5th-year options. So, yeah. Biz in the chat says Quay's starting to make more decisive plays now. Hopefully, we see Coop and Quay play together. Yeah. That's what sucks about the injury, because that was the best I've seen Quay play in a long time, man.
I know, and then he tweaks the ankle, right? It's like, ugh. And Hopper, we saw peppered it a little, but like Edge Cooper, man, just coming on strong, and Quay starting to play really good ball. It's like you get so excited to see the potential of that tandem in the middle there, and it's just we're getting cheated of it. So hopefully Quay's back sooner than later, man.
Yeah. So Nick was I was wrong on that. Nick said $16 million for Quay, 13 for
That's
Wyatt.
what it was.
So,
yeah.
So if you were to, let's say you played that game with Quay and you said 5th-year option, tack on 3 voidable years and spread it out over the duration of those voidable years, what you would essentially be doing is you can't do the full amount. So let's say you would do, over those 3 years, you do $3 million per year. So you could absorb $9 million of that cap, what would be cap hit for 2026, right? But you would spread out $9 million of it at $3 million per on those 3 voidable years. Therefore, that cap hit would only be $5 million for 2026. That makes sense. So again, and the second that he's not on the roster, that $9 million will accelerate to the first year that he's not on the roster. You got to pay that bill as soon as they're not on your roster. Keep them on, and you sign them to an extension, then you can throw the new extension within those voidable years and the complete structure of the contract. Like, you can reset those voidable years. So if you gave him a 4-year extension the year after you tacked on the 3 voidable years, then you got the 4-year extension to spread the whole cap hit out. But also you can tack on more voidable years on the backside of that if you wanted to as well. I'm not saying we should do that, but that's how that works. So Hopefully that makes sense. Mike Witt asked, is Jaire playing tonight or not? We were going to hit this on the pregame show. We've got the injury report, Tim. Here's the latest. Jaire Alexander is questionable. Corey Ballantyne's questionable. Javon Bullard is out. No surprise there. Luke Musgrave's questionable. Quay Walker is out. We expected that as well. Evan Williams is questionable with the quadricep. What sucks about Evan Williams is wasn't on the injury report Thursday or Friday. He popped up on Saturday limited, and he's now questionable. I'm kind of leaning toward, hey, don't try to get him out there. You know, if he tweaks something, he being Evan Williams, if he tweaks something, I would be okay with them sitting him, and let's throw Zane Anderson out there like we did a couple weeks ago. Again, not that you're overlooking the Saints. You still got to show up and play ball, but you could see they got a bunch of people out too. Derek Carr out. Obviously, we expected that. Alvin Kamara is now officially listed as out. Bub Means, wide receiver, out. And Chris Olave, wide receiver with the head injury. He is out. MVS is even questionable too with the chest injury and / illness. So, again, we'll hit on all that, the actives, inactives on the pregame show. But since Mike Witt has been hitting the super chats up and he asked that question, I want to hit it real quick. So hopefully we get Jai out there. But again, only if he's healthy. Right, Tim?
Yeah, I think so. I really do. I don't know. This is just here we go again, right? This has been a long battle. But the worst thing that could happen now is after waiting 6 weeks, you put him out there a week too early and then he's done. So I'm with you. Let's just hold off. We might see some Oladapo tonight. You never know.
So Mike Witt hit us with a super chat asking that question. Sorry, Mike. Appreciate the extra dono there, buddy. But hopefully we answered that. So he's listed as questionable, 50-50 shot of playing. I don't know, man. I'm not expecting him to play. Maybe he will. The good news is if he does play, it means he's 100% healthy, right? Because they've been very, very
as close to it as you can be, right, at this time of the year. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. All right. And let's see. Ron Sample says, I think the activated have to be by 2 o'clock Central today. So we'll find out who is active and inactive. Like I said, for the pregame show, we'll definitely have that stuff ready for you guys for sure. As All Good was asking too, Musgrave is not activated, right? So he's out. We got till 2 o'clock, according to Ron Sample, and Ron's always got some solid information in here. So we should find out soon enough, for sure. Let's get back. Let's try to finish up this contract stuff. That way we don't have to revisit it later on tonight. Let's go to the secondary, and they've got the corners and the safeties lumped in together here. Jaire Alexander on the books this year for $23.9 million. Next year it jumps to $25.8. Xavier McKinney, Tim, $7.8 million this year, bro. Like him and Rashawn Gary, absolute steals against the cap this year. Now he'll jump to 17.6 next year, which this is another reason why we're talking about like all this stuff is going to blimp up next year. So you're somewhat limited in what money you can spend. That's why the whole Micah Parsons talk, I try not to even entertain it very much because it's not possible. It's possible, but you're really going to put yourself in a bind for the next 2 to 3 years pushing money out if you were to go for somebody like that. And I think the people that are stirring that up, not to be mean, I think it's fantasy football type folks that just get excited over a big name, you know?
Yeah. Or people looking for engagement on social media.
That's the big thing. Yeah. Yep. They are definitely farming engagement on whether it's Facebook, Twitter, which, by the way, man, I've lost a lot of respect for many websites on Facebook. These are guys that they're like at the top of the heap for Packers websites. And every day, Tim, there's something on Facebook that's like, the Packers make a huge decision on a key player. And it's like, and they'll show a picture of someone. And then you click on it. They'll show a picture of Jaire Alexander, and then you click on it, and it's an article about someone else that has nothing to do with the title. You just
clickbait.
Yeah, it's clickbait. Do what you do. It's cool, but just know you are free to do that. But we as Packer fans are free to not respect your ass and not support. I canceled 2 subscriptions to do 2 different websites for that very thing. I ain't playing that game, man. I ain't playing it.
Oh, we're gonna give him some.
So, again, Xavier McKinney, 7.8. He jumps to 17.6 next year. Keyshawn Nixon, $3.9 million in 24. It jumps to 6.8 next year. Eric Stokes, 3.7 this year. He's unrestricted free agent. Corey Ballantyne, $2 million. He's unrestricted free agent. Javon Bullard, 1.2, then jumps to 1.5 next year. Zane Anderson is an unrestricted free agent. I don't think anybody's going to be knocking on his door. If you want him back, you can get him back for probably pennies on the dollar. We'll see how that goes. Evan Williams, though, Tim, $995,000 this year, man.
Gotta love the rookies.
Yeah. Next year it jumps to 1.1 million. Carrington Valentine basically made the play of the game last week, right? That sealed the middle eight, controlled the momentum, won the turnover differential. $940,000 player, by the way. Next year he jumps to 1 million flat. Catano Ladapo 858,000. Robert Rochelle 468,000. And then of course you got the practice squad guys that will be reset if they're on the practice squad at the end of the year to sign a futures contract. So as the secondary looks, I wish they broke it down into corners and safeties, but unfortunately they got everybody together. The big talking point is Jaire Alexander, right? 23.9 this year. Next year is 25.8. A lot of the guaranteed money is pretty much gone. So if you were to cut loose with Jaire, you're going to free up a significant amount. We may hit that when we get ready to wrap up. I just don't want to touch it right now because it'll mess this whole screen up. But looking at the defensive backs room, man, safety position looks solid, dude, both cap-wise and obviously play on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens with corner, right? We could see some guys that aren't here in 2025. Corey Ballantyne is a name that kind of comes to mind right away. I wonder what, he's approaching that dirty 30 number in age. And I don't know. I wonder what the market's going to be like for him in free agency. Maybe that's another guy you can bring back for a little bit of a discount. I think Eric Stokes Jr. is probably gone. I don't think he's going to garner a lot of attention in free agency. But then again, we've seen this year that he's proven to, be a decent backup depth kind of option, not a full-on liability out there. There are teams with worse secondaries than ours that could certainly use kind of like a, middle to bottom, top of the bottom tier type of corner that Stokes is. So I don't think we make him an offer or anything unless he's willing to take, stupid pay cut. And I think you're right, man. Safety room, feel real good about it. Got a gem there with Omar Brown. That's still my dude. Still my guy, man. Want to see him develop. And, we got him for peanuts too. So, we'll see how this shapes out.
So we're going to be in the nickel the majority of the time, right? We've talked about this all year long. So what you're looking at is 3 corners and 2 safeties. So let's look at the roster next year. Let's pretend all these unrestricted free agents are gone. None of them are being re-signed, right? So how does your starters change on the defensive side of the ball? Jaire Alexander and Keyshawn Nixon on the outside, that stays the same. You would have Javon Bullard in the slot, that stays the same. Xavier McKinney would be a deep safety along with Evan Williams. Your starting defensive back group is under contract next year. Now, when you go to backup, what changes? If Eric Stokes walks in free agency, and I hope that happens, I expect that to happen. If he walks in free agency, then Carrington Valentine, who split reps with Eric Stokes, will be your backup corner for the outside, right? That's how that's going to work. You'll have Catano Ladapo as a backup safety. Zane Anderson will hit free agency, so you got the contingency plan already in place there. Like you said, Omar Brown may take a step forward. Who knows? Maybe Kamal Haddon or Kalen King steps up and makes a roster next year too. So when you look at the defensive back room, I know people on Twitter are screaming, "We got to draft a corner. We got to draft a corner." We were expecting them to draft a corner pretty high last year, seeing that the cornerback draft was pretty stout.
Yeah, and it happened dead last.
Dead last, 7th round. So, again, your starting defensive back room is set. Now, for the people that are saying, we got to go get a better corner, obviously what they're taking into consideration is Jaire being hurt. So, yeah. I'm with you. If Jaire can't prove that he can stay healthy, then you got to do something. You need to. Yeah. But if he is healthy and this stays in place, then your cornerback room is set. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's set. Yeah. You just got to get him healthy because I think he's graded now as the 11th best corner in the league, and I want to say his passer rating when targeted is something like in the 20s. So he's a solid number 1. Since we're done with this screen, you're done with this screen, right, Tim?
Yep.
Okay, let's go to Jaire Alexander real quick before we wrap up, and let's talk about the ramifications of his contract if we were to let him go and all that stuff. Because there's a lot of talk about, hey, just cut him loose. Let's look at the contract breakdown here. And this is going to I'm going to go full screen. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this well enough. And I am going to zoom in here as much as we can. Okay, so the way it's sitting right now, we're obviously in year 2024. I wish they would do away with this whole section over here. It drives me insane, man. Let me see if I can jump in here. We may have to scroll over. So here's what we're looking at. Still can't get the whole thing up there, even after we zoom in. Unbelievable, man. Give me just a second, guys. I apologize. I just want to make sure we can get the whole thing on the screen. It's going to look small for you guys, but I'll be able to explain what's going on here. So in 2024, this year, obviously his cap hits $23.9 million. The dead cap attached is $35.4. All right. When we jump to 2025, you notice it says potential out 2025, right? So this is what we're talking about. His base salary in 25 is $16.1 million. His signing bonus, which is prorated, is $6 million. His restructure bonus is $2.3 million. You'll notice the voidable year at the bottom. We'll talk about that in a second. So his cap hit next year is $25.8 million, but the dead cap attached is $19 million flat. So essentially what you can do, Tim, is you can free up over $6 million if you just cut him outright or trade him. Okay, that's where we're at there. 2026, salary goes to $18.1 million. Proration, all that stuff stays in place. The dead cap attached is only $10.7 million, and his cap hit is $27 million. So this is the moral of the story. If you cut bait from Jaire next year, you can free up $6 million in cap space. If you cut bait with him in 2026, you're freeing up $20 million in cap space. So I think we all feel comfortable saying he'll at least get that adjusted by 2026. But here's what you got to ask yourself. And this is what we're talking about, like cost analysis in the business world. The question, Tim, is it worth $6 million to keep Jaire Alexander in 2025? That's what you ask yourself.
Yes.
Would you rather free up $6 million or would you rather keep Jaire Alexander? You're saying yes, definitely, right?
I'm keeping Jaire.
Now let me ask you this. What if I have a time machine and he only plays 8 games next year?
But we don't, so that's not fair. We don't know. We don't know that.
You would say that's not.
We won't know that.
But this is exactly the analysis that Goody's making right now. I guarantee.
Yeah, I get it.
Hey, when he's on the field, he's one of the best, but he hasn't been on the field.
First of all, I don't think there's a scenario where they just cut him. That's not
absolutely not.
Yeah, that won't happen. Now, trying to work a trade package that includes, like, I don't know, a 3-tech and, a draft pick or something, maybe. Right. But I'm of the logic that there's facts and there's feelings, and the feelings are Ja's not available. Well, yeah, he's hurt. That happens when you play football, and Ja's made repeated efforts to see the field throughout the season, and it hasn't panned out. You can't knock Jaire Alexander for that. I mean, you just can't. The guy's injured. It happens. And I think we're better as a secondary when he's on the field. And I just feel like you can't just entertain the idea of an outright cut to save up some money. I think a trade is possible, but Ja's got that hefty contract attached to his name. That could make a trade a little interesting. But that's my dude, man. I want to see him here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I understand, man. And again, I'm trying to remove all emotion as a fan and looking at it from a business standpoint. Here's what I keep coming up with. He won't get traded and he won't get cut. They're going to restructure. So, And what I mean by that, guys, is hang with me here a second. If I can get this zoomed in enough, I won't be able to because this absolutely sucks. But okay, focus on 2025 next year. Okay, you can see my cursor, right, Tim? All right,
yeah. Yep.
All right. So here's how his contract lays out in 2025. Hang with me for a second. I'm going to try to say this as slow as possible and try not to confuse anybody. His salary is $16.1 million. Okay. Workout bonus $700K, nothing. Roster bonus, nothing at $650K. So what you've got to work with is this salary right here, $16.1 million. Okay. So what you can do is you can convert salary to signing bonus, write him a check, and then you spread it out over the duration of the contract. That's how that works. Okay. So if you go to Jaire and go, hey, Jai, listen, buddy, I know your guaranteed money is pretty much coming to an end here, and you haven't been on the field, right? The reality is he has missed over 50% of the snaps in the last 30-some games. Okay. Now, if we were a normal working man, Tim, if you miss if you got an hourly job and you miss half of your work, guess what, bub? I didn't have to pay you half of your salary, right? I didn't have to pay you half of your hourly.
But if I got hurt on the job, though, you might have some economic responsibility to me, absolutely, whether I'm working or not.
That's where a buyout comes in. And here's the other thing too. Was it your fault? Was it our fault? We can go down that
Right.
rabbit hole all day
Right.
long.
Right.
So what I would do if I was Goody is I would go to Jaire and say, how about we do this? This 16.1 million, right? How about we convert, let's convert 5 million to a signing bonus. And what that means is if we cut you outright, you're going to miss out on $6 million. We want to write you a $5 million check right now, but we want to cut your salary down as well. So if we convert 5 million of it to signing bonus, if you agree to waive 3 million in salary, you see what I'm saying? You're getting a little bit of security up front with the signing bonus. We can't take that back. That's your money. You keep that. It goes in your bank account today. But you got to be willing to waive an extra 3 million. So what you would do is you would remove a full 8 million of the 16 million off of the salary cap hit for 2025. And then that 6 million that you or that 5 million that you just converted into signing bonus, right? You would spread that over the duration of 2026 and 2027, just tack on an extra 2.5 million. Okay. So you would free up cap space to the tune of 8 million in 2025. That would lower his cap hit to roughly $18 million. Now the question is it worth it to keep Jaire on the roster for at $18 million cap hit as opposed to $25 million? I feel a lot better about that. I think that's the approach that Goody will take. We'll revisit this and we'll pull up the dates, and we do a good job of this in the offseason to kind of get everybody prepped. All right, we're entering that window where these restructures should start to take place. I think he's going to be primed for a restructure this year, partly because the structure's already in place with this 2027 voidable year, and you can even tack more voidable years on there if you want to. So I know there's some people that are cap doom and gloomers that are going to hate that idea. I respect that. I got you. I know there's people like Tim that's like, hey, look, you may even believe we don't need to touch anything. It ain't Jaire's fault he got hurt. He's going to be fully healthy next year. I expect that. And he's worth 25.8. I can understand that standpoint. But me, like as a business owner, I would approach it this way and go, all right, let's give ourselves a little bit of security, a little bit of insurance. Let's free up $8 million in cap space next year because we're going to need it for these players like Xavier McKinney, Rashawn Gary, that these numbers are going to blimp on, right? That's the way I would approach that. And also, you're not – listen, if Jaire's insulted by you going to him and going, hey, look, we want to write you a $5 million check today, okay? And in return, we want you to free up $3 million in cap for us in salary because you haven't been available for, over 50% of the games that you were under contract for. If he's got a problem with that, then you would –
yeah, then, yeah, I'm with you.
And if you get a 5th-round pick for Jaire Alexander and you free up that cap, he wasn't happy here anyway because he didn't want the restructure. It's just one of those things that, hey, we're going to agree to disagree and we'll respectfully part ways. That's business, right? So I don't know if that makes sense. But
it does. And I'm with you. I think restructure is the best approach and probably the most likely to happen.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I could see that being the way they go for sure. Now we'll find out soon enough. Obviously, we get into the offseason, we're going to know exactly how that's going to play out, and it's going to be fun, man. I really enjoy this stuff. Enjoy talking about this. The offseason is a lot of fun here on this show because we're not going to criticize people for wanting to talk about the salary cap ramifications and all that good stuff. I know there's some people I care less about salary cap. Shut up, stop talking about it. Okay, dude. All right, got you. We're just gonna rant and rave over he dropped the ball and he didn't. We're going to try to go as in-depth as we possibly can. So, all right. Let's see here in the chat. We'll wrap up with the chat real quick. Biz in the chat said, I think restructure is the most likely option. Jaire isn't putting up playtime or explosive tape for the other teams to be chomping at the bit to get him. I think that's a fair point, too. It's not like he's leading in interceptions or even pass breakups and things like that, right? Carl K., love Clay's explanation. Good view. Appreciate you, buddy. Hopefully we explained it enough. And again, listen, I'm no cap guru, nor do I play one on TV, but this is my understanding of how the cap works. And if I'm ever wrong, you guys point it out in the chat and we'll get the correct answer together. Nick McSwain says $18 million for 50% of the snaps over the past 2 years is still steep to me. I completely understand that. I do, man. Again, from a business owner standpoint, if I had an employee that was only available to work 50% of the time, you can bet your sweet ass I'm going, hey, bub, we got to do something. We got to adjust something here, man. Like something's got to happen. Let's see. All good. That was a good explanation on research. Okay, good deal. Glad that we didn't completely botch that. Prince says, I love cap talk. No issues. Good deal, man. Good deal. Let's see here. Brambo, don't we have $65 million in projected cap space next year? Man, that doesn't sound right, Brambo, but you might be right. I haven't looked at it too in depth.
65%.
65%. That's what he's talking about. There you go. Now I get it. I was going to try to look at the overview here for the Packers and see if it shows next year. It typically does, but I've got this zoomed in so far now. I look like I can't even tell what we got going on here. So cap space this year is at $16.3 million is what we got. That's 10th most in the league. Now keep in mind that 16.3 rolls over into 2025. This number I'm going to hit on includes that rollover as well as what they anticipate the salary cap increasing to. As it sits next year, you're right. $63.3 million in cap space as it sits right now. That's 11th most in the league. So now that includes Jordan Love's contract extension, right? That's everything on the books. So now what you got to ask yourself is these players that we got to re-sign, Tim, and we've talked about this a lot, you're going to use a good chunk of that for the contract extensions you're going to give this coming year. You're going to try to put that on the 2025 books to help alleviate cap pressure in the back. But we're in a good spot, man. We're in a really, really good spot.
Yep.
I just don't want to go blow a good chunk of that on Micah Parsons when we need a real 3-tech, you know?
Yep, so. Absolutely.
All right. Anything else, man? We went over, as always, right?
No, it's all good.
All right. That's it, guys. We're out. We'll see you guys about an hour and a half before kickoff. Tim, we need to come up with a time right now. The game kicks off around 8:15. Is that right?
Yeah, 7:15 Central. So you want to do like
we think 6
Central, 6 p.m. Central. Take us to 7.
If we did 6:30, that would run us up to 7:30 Central, right? That's after kickoff, so we can't do that.
Yeah.
So 6. Yeah, let's go 6 Central. That'd be 7 my time. All right.
Perfect.
Cool. All right, so guys, we'll be back 6 p.m. Central Time for the PTA pregame show, taking you up to kickoff for the Packers Saints Monday Night Football matchup. Going to be a cold one out there, so we may have the doors open just to feel like it here in Tennessee. Man, we're down 16 degrees in the mornings here, though, so we're pretty chilly.
Nice.
All right, Tim, appreciate your time, bub.
Thanks, Clay. Love talking ball with you, man. This was a great show.
All right, we will see you guys later on this evening. Get ready, get hydrated for the game. All right, don't be one of those knuckleheads. Don't drink water all day and then think you're going to hit 3 Daddy sodas and crawl around the house the rest of the night. You hear me? We're out. Appreciate you.
There we go. We out.
Bye, guys.